The president just referred to what's happening in Saudi Arabia with the investigation of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi and what seems to be his death or his murder as another case of guilty until proven innocent, like Kavanaugh. That's what he's saying.
Jesus. You know, it is really hard to keep up with this. Is that really what he said?
About the senators, a bipartisan kind of talk now that they would block any further arms sales to Saudi. Would you support that?
Well, I think that would be hurting us. I do hate to commit to what recourse we take at this. It's just too early.
I don't like the concept of stopping an investment of $110 billion into the United States.
Saudi Arabia not only murdered Khashoggi, but this is a brutal dictatorship which does everything it can to crush democracy, treats women as third-class citizens. What we have got to know is that Saudi Arabia is not a reliable ally. We have got to bring Iran and Saudi Arabia together in a room under American leadership and say we are sick and tired of us spending huge amounts of money and human resources because of your conflict.
He may meet with all of them together, but we want to find out what happened. And he's got instructions to find out what happened. We're talking about the whole situation with Saudi Arabia that you've been reading about, I'm sure, very much. But it's a terrible situation. There's no question about it. I don't like it one bit. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to have the Crown Prince with us. Saudi Arabia has been a very great friend and a big purchaser of equipment and lots of other things. And one of the biggest investments in the United States is I guess it's your big investment, is buying stock in companies and various other things in the United States and creating jobs. We've become very good friends over a fairly short period of time. I was in Saudi Arabia in May, and we are bringing back hundreds of billions of dollars into the United States.
That the United States, with very little media attention, has been Saudi Arabia's partner in this horrific war. We have been providing the bombs the Saudi-led coalition is using, refueling their planes before they drop those bombs, and assisting with intelligence. In too many cases, our weapons are being used to kill civilians. A 2016 State Department report found that the conflict has helped Al-Qaeda and ISIS deepen their inroads across much of the country. It is the promise of unconditional U.S. support for the Saudis that has undermined the efforts toward peace.
I just spoke with the King of Saudi Arabia, who denies any knowledge of what took place with regard to, as he said, his Saudi Arabian citizen. I've asked, and he firmly denied that. All I can do is report what he told me, and he told me in a very firm way that they had no knowledge of it. He said it very strongly.
War in Iran. Should the sanctions be eased?
To avoid war in Iran, what I think presidential leadership is about is demanding that Saudi Arabia sit down with Iran and other key players in the region around the conference table, and that the President of the United States says, hey, Saudi Arabia, you are a murdering dictatorship. Probably don't phrase it right in that terms.
No, I mean,
but they are.
Our reporting shows they're responsible for Jamal Khashoggi.
Absolutely. Not to mention, you know, they kill dissidents. I mean, they're bad news guys. But that is the reality, and I hope that over the period of years, we have a president who helps lead this world toward democracy and human rights, not support as Trump does for authoritarian regimes. But having said that, what we cannot continue to do is spend trillions of dollars on the war on terror. We have got to play a leadership role in bringing the countries who have been hating each other for years around the table.
Why not?
For me, very simple. It's America first. Saudi Arabia, if we broke with them, I think your oil prices would go through the roof. I've kept them down. They've helped me keep them down. Right now we have low oil prices, or relatively. I'd like to see it go down even lower. And I'm not going to tell a country that's spending hundreds of billions of dollars and has helped me do one thing very importantly, keep oil prices down so that they're not going to 100 and 150 $100 a barrel. Right now, we have oil prices in great shape. I'm not going to destroy the world economy, and I'm not going to destroy the economy for our country by being foolish with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is probably the second biggest oil producer. They've worked with us very well. We've kept oil prices down. If you want to see oil prices go to $150 a barrel, like, by the way, Russia would love to see that, all you have to do is break up our relationship with Saudi Arabia.
I have long been troubled by the nature of the relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia. And in light of the likely Saudi murder of critic Jamal Khashoggi, I think it is time for us to thoroughly reevaluate that relationship. Saudi Arabia is and has always been a despotic dictatorship in which dissent is not tolerated, in which women are treated as third-class citizens, and which has spent the last several decades exporting an extreme form of Islam, Wahhabism, around the world. It is also a nation which is currently devastating the country of Yemen, one of the poorest countries in the world, in a catastrophic war with U.S. support. The Trump administration has made Saudi Arabia the cornerstone of a Middle East strategy aimed at confronting Iran. I believe that the United States must play a much more even-handed role in the region to bring some level of understanding and cooperation in that part of the world, rather than supporting conflict between the Saudis and the Iranians, a conflict which serves no one's interest except for arms manufacturers. Today, what the United States Senate said in a very loud way, that we will not continue to have our military posture dictated by a despotic, murderous regime in Saudi Arabia, a regime which does not respect democracy, does not respect human rights.
President Trump issued the second veto of his presidency overnight, rejecting a call from Congress to end U.S. involvement in Yemen's civil war.
We continue to follow this breaking news out of Pensacola, Florida, on this deadly shooting at the U.S. Naval Air Station there. A Saudi military member who was training at this facility was the one who shot 3 people to death.
At approximately 6:51 this morning, the call went out to the Escambia County Sheriff's Office Central Dispatch that there was an active shooter on Naval Air Station, Pensacola.
The important thing is that it is no longer an active shooter situation. We do have several deceased and several wounded. My heart goes out to those families of the deceased and of the wounded. They're part of the Navy family. They're part of us, and our heart goes out to those of you who may be affected by this tragedy.
Given that this was a foreign national in the employ of a foreign service, and there'll be time to do this, but obviously the government of Saudi Arabia needs to make things better for these victims, and I think that they are going to owe a debt here, given that this is one of their individuals.
President Trump right now, let's watch this.
Families and friends of the warriors who were killed and wounded in the attack that took place just recently, just this morning in Pensacola, Florida. The king said that the Saudi people are greatly angered by the barbaric actions of the shooter, and that this person in no way, shape, or form represents the feelings of the Saudi people who love the American people so much. So that was just given to me by the king of Saudi Arabia, and I can tell you it's a horrible thing that took place, and we're getting to the bottom of it. All of the investigators are there now, and they're studying it very closely, and terrible thing. And our condolences go to the families and to everybody involved, including the wounded. We have some badly wounded people also, and we have to extend our condolences to them, and we'll be working with them all very closely. So I just wanted to let you know that was from King Solomon. And today we're here to talk to some of the very hardworking citizens who are benefiting from our historic record-setting campaign to eliminate job-killing regulations. I will tell you the market is up 325 points today on great job numbers. The numbers have been phenomenal, actually, some people said.
I spoke with the King of Saudi Arabia. They are devastated in Saudi Arabia. We're finding out what took place. whether it's one person or a number of people. And the king will be involved in taking care of families and loved ones. He feels very strongly. He's very, very devastated by what happened and what took place. Likewise, the Crown Prince. They are devastated by what took place in Pensacola.
Well, the president finds you worthy of a nickname, sir. He's calling you Crazy Bernie.
And yeah, Bernie. You got some real beauties. Crazy Bernie. Crazy Bernie. Crazy Bernie.